150 North Bay Shore Drive. Yeah, we see a lot of issues here at the council meetings, and seldom, they're sometimes very perplexing. This one, to me, is so minimal, so incredibly marginal. We're talking about a 100-foot wide canal, and worried about somebody looking across, if they were staying on the edge of their seawall, and being impeded by 5 foot of someone coming into the canal, still leaving 50 feet of freeway, of free water access, which is plenty to turn around in. And no one mentioned it, but when you have a mooring post, when you have a boat lift, you don't parallel park like you might in regular parking on a street. You have to go in along the keel, along the center line. So it's great if you have one boat lift, but your neighbors better not for you to get in and out of there. It doesn't work. If this lot has a boat lift and this one has a boat lift, essentially they have to come in perpendicularly. Now, if you say, well, we don't want you to have that, you're going to have a smaller boat, you can't have this lift, we're talking about a large bathtub with a motor on it. Is that really to benefit the people that live in the townhouses? And if the townhouses are compromised, does that benefit the people to the north in Keystone? Are we that so short-sighted that we're going to take away someone's additional value, additional usage when they want to make an investment in that property, when they want to make their property better, their neighborhood better, and in return, they'll make what's on the other side of the canal better? And as they get better, it'll enhance the rest of Keystone? And yet we're going to try to play that down? We're going to try to stop this again? Are we that short-sighted for 5 feet? This is not a solid wall. This is not a Trump wall that's going up 5 feet out. This is every now and then a boat may go out 5 feet. And the boats aren't the full 20 feet wide.
All right, Bill, thank you.
Okay?
We have
Please
to give it
consider
up to-
that. This is really so easy.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Mike Pushouts. I live at 1983 Northeast 123rd Street. I did do a lot of research prior to moving my 19-foot boat to that address, and I have a jet dock, and it's very similar to what the jet skis sit on. And my boat sat on there, and that's to answer your question, Scott. It says, under state law, you may position your jet dock as you have it, which it was perpendicular when I moved in, because the lawyers that work for jet dock, they approved it. They said, Durham approves that. So I'll finish this one sentence here. Under state law, you may position your jet dock as you have it, and it is impermissible for local jurisdiction to regulate in a contrary fashion. There is also no precedent that allows the watercraft that is dry dock to be regulated more stringently either. As far as your citation, which I got, and I did then move it parallel and have not since taken my boat off of it, because getting it up there rips the dock out. But in any case, as far as your citation, I can't read which code section the city is applying because citation is smudged. However, it appears to be the boat mooring section 295601E1 that requires all boats to be moored parallel to land. This would be an outright prohibition. Lawfully moored floating vehicle platforms perpendicular to land and cannot survive a challenge against state law. So I just wanted to clear that up about jet skis that are on floating platforms and also boats on floating platforms. They are permitted for the state. I was going to try to get a variance. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Tracy Heldemuth, 2090 Northeast 124th Street. As you heard my husband say, we've been living in our house 25 years. This has been going on for 15 years, over and over. I respect my neighbors that they disagree with me, but live and let live. The person that this whole thing started with moved out. I've got an Airbnb with strangers looking into my property. Every week is a different group of people from a different place. And the houses those houses are getting run down. The people that are asking for these variances or whatever you want to call it, for their boats, have been fixing up their houses. They bought houses that were in disrepair. They're pumping tons of money into it. We're finally looking across the canal at houses that are cleaned up, and people want to enjoy their waterway. I just think it's absolutely ludicrous for those of us who were fortunate enough to buy when we did and can afford to live on the water on a 75-foot piece of property, not to be able to have the other people enjoy the property just like we do. It's just, it causes no hardship whatsoever. I can turn the boat around and I barely can turn my car around. So I don't understand what's going on. Live and let live. Let these people do what they want. They're not causing any problems for me as a homeowner, and my kids are on that canal on a jet ski and on a boat, and they can manage. I'm sure an experienced boat person can get around that 50 feet of waterway in between. And I just think this whole thing is just so old and ludicrous and redundant that it's just shocking that we're back to this. And I thank you, and I feel bad for you because you're right, Scott. It's a lose-lose. Everybody's cranky, but seriously, these boats have been sitting there since I moved there 25 years ago, and I grew up in Sans Souci. I've been in the city since Bryan Elementary. This canal is a specific, different situation than anywhere else because our side is 75 feet and their side is 19 feet. It's ridiculous. My next door neighbor.
Hello, my name is Jean Dahlgren. I live at 2100 Northeast 124th Street. I'm the big white house right across the canal from the people that have their boats up on these docks. It isn't a hardship to look at the back of a boat. That's not the problem. But they back up against my seawall, and sometimes they jet across. We've had that problem with one boat that jets across, boom, to get up on their lift. And my seawall, if you go out and look, I've asked them to come out and look at the storm sewer. I can see the water from my land looking at the seawall because it's all corroded and done away with. Because the blast of these boats take away all the stuff that has built up around the opening to those storm sewers. Plus the fact is that one house has parties. They have their music. They come home late at night. They put bright lights that shine right into my son's bedroom. His wife goes to work at 5 o'clock in the morning. She doesn't like to be woken up with bright lights shining into the house and so forth. So I don't think they have very much consideration for the people that live around them. The other two people that have had them on, the person right across the canal from me, he has a longer piece of property because he has an additional right-of-way next to his, and then he owns the next townhouse. He has his house now parked parallel to the seawall. That's not been a problem, but a lot of these people use them as party houses or their private marina. The man across the canal, he lives out on the beach. This is his marina across the street from where I am. And right now, it's been a very quiet marina from his house. But some of the other people, they don't think that way. And if we allow everybody to do that, what's going to stop them from having marinas at this piece of property? They can live out in the beach and park their boats right at this townhouse and put their boats up on this lift.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Public hearing is still open, but I see no one coming, so it is closed. Anyone who wishes to speak, please come closer to the mic. Do not wait at the last second.
How you doing? I'm Dan Sobush. I live at 2089 Northeast 123rd Street. I've lived there for about 11 years. We have one of those townhouses. The property boundaries go out 25 feet anyways. We have 25 feet from the seawall we're allowed. There's no reason the people at Keystone Point couldn't put theirs perpendicular too, if they wish to. We're not asking for anything more. We're just asking to utilize the property we already have. That's all. Thank you.
Liceo Diaz, 2223 Northeast 123rd Street. Been there for 15 years. This has been going on since we've been there. I don't see a problem with people parking perpendicular. It's no safety issue yet. We keep getting one back, like Mrs. Coughlin says. This is, get it over with. You know what? Approve it. it's not gonna be a problem. Just approve it, because otherwise we're gonna keep coming back and coming back and back, and it's never gonna get ending. So please, get it over with. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. John O'Brien, 2199 Northeast 123rd Street. I'm speaking as a resident. First, I'd like to, make sure that this is not a personal thing. I'm very good friends with the people on the other side of the canal. I had an excellent real estate agent who told me the facts before I moved in there. I
What's
just
the
want-
other side?
What's that?
What's the other side?
Keystone.
Keystone is the other side.
Yes. I'm in.
Census is this side.
I'm in the townhouses.
Yeah.
So, yes. But what I wanted to say was a couple of things. First, there was a lot of properties that have gone downhill, and some of the people, and I happen to know Joel, who has one of those docks. The improvements he made to his house are astonishing. If you lived in that area and you saw that going up, you're like, oh, thank goodness someone is spending money in this neighborhood. I mean, he was spending a lot of money. It took how long? Like a year and a half, 2 years. Wonderful work. I want more people to come in and be able to do that. And as an employee, I do know that we do spend a lot of money on trying to improve neighborhoods and things, to bring property values up and to make things better. This is something that doesn't cost us anything, and it makes a big difference. And even though I'm saddened by why this is here, I'm very glad that we have the opportunity to review this ordinance and to look at it again with fresh eyes. I think it served its purpose well, but at this point, I think changing it would really improve things, tremendously for us, and it'll improve things for the Keystone as well, I hope. Thanks a lot.
Stephen Schwartzbaum, 1940 Northeast 124th Street. I live on Keystone Point. I'm west of the three boat lifts that are there. So I listened to a lot of sides. So I'm going to bring a new angle. I've been on that canal now for 36 years. I'm a boater myself. These new perpendicular docks are maybe 15, 18 years old. So back in 2002, I don't even know if they were building these perpendicular top boat lifts. There is definitely plenty of room to turn my boat. I'm a bad boat driver, and I can turn my boat in the 50 feet that will be left. I don't think they obstruct and make our canal look any worse. I actually think they make it look better. Some of the docks have been falling in. I think in as areas change and for the good, I've been there for 36 years. There is an upbeat in that area where it costs a lot to get in, and $300,000-400,000 they build to be able to live there. So I think it's going to make my property look better. As far as another person said, one of our neighbors, about backing in, these people cannot back in jet skiing into their perpendicular docks. They have to be super careful because the boats are anywhere from $50,000 to $150,000. So if they're backing them in, they have to go in very, very slow because they're going to hit the poles before they hit anything else. So I think it's Mr. Kemnitz said it's not a safety issue, and I don't think it's an eyesore issue. So I say let them keep it, and if somebody else wants to build it, I think it's fine.
Sabi Behart, 1911 Northeast 118th Road. I ask you please not to lose sight of the fact that there is at least one of the applicants who made an application, submitted plans, got a permit, built the lift, was approved by everybody here and Durham, etc. And now he's being told that it's illegal. So I think that the city has to take responsibility for that and do something about it. And I don't think it's reasonable that the people that did that with a permit will have to wait until the whole city is rezoned in order to allow the boats. I think that you should at least make a special exception for them and then deal with whatever you have to deal with. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here. My name is Jill Kahn, and I've lived in North Miami most of my life, and I've lived in my townhouse for 33 years. So I've seen a lot of changes, and I've also, I think part of it is that the poles, when I first lived there, we all had poles that were sort of between each of the townhouses, and over the years they've broken off and fallen, and there's a little bit of disorder there, but it definitely doesn't work parallel. We have a very small boat that complies, and also a paddle boat, a kayak, a lot of paddle boarders. There's a lot of other activity there, so we also need to make it friendly for people that use the water in that way. And addressing the hardship, there's no hardship about the water. That's the beautiful thing about living there. The hardship is the highway the street has become, and it's just a world of difference from when I first moved there to now. The neighbors, we have a lot of investors that are flipping the townhouses, and it's almost like an apartment complex. And these owners that are here tonight representing us represent a different thing. We know what it is to live there. We have a sense of community with each other between the dog park and the water. That provides our community out there on Main Street. So this concession to let us have some options in ways to use our beautiful backyards. We found a starfish under our floating dock the other day, an actual living starfish. It's beautiful out there, but we pay dearly for the privilege of having that little slice of paradise that I find sustainable as well. So it's not a big house in Keystone, because somebody like me could not afford one when I was 25, but I managed to keep it and make it my life, and would like, once again, like it used to be able to pull in a boat safely instead of all this skirting around and dealing with neighbors and all that stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Albert Fowler. I live in 2031 Northeast 123rd Street. I got a floating dock, and I got a boat on it. I got no me, all of us, don't have another way to park the boat. Either to come in, to put it in different way, you have to pass through my neighbor. And he got a jet ski, and the other guy have another boat. It's impossible. It's 19. This is the particular thing about Areta. This is only 19 feet wide seawall, so nobody can have another way to park your boat. Either it will be unsafe to park in a different way. It's much safer to park it parallel. Only this way there will be the way I'm sorry, the way it is, with the flooding dock, or with the way they have. Okay, have a good night.
Good evening, Rod Cinto, 1955 Northeast 118th Road in San Souci. You got a room full of people here that quite a few of them have already given you their opinion. I believe I'm a progressive person. I'm also a business owner here in North Miami. I believe in progression. I think allowing the boat docks to stay as they are and turn them into a better facility will help you. Now, I can sit here and talk for the whole 2 minutes, but I think everybody's made their case pretty clearly. You have pros, you have cons, but the city needs to be progressive and look forward. And this is a nice area to put these boat docks in and allow the homeowners to have the maximum use of their homes. So rather than waste much time, I think you should get right to the point and do the best you can for all the homeowners. Look at both sides of it, but certainly this is a good use of the property, and allowing people to park their boats perpendicular is a great move for the city and for the tax base and for safety and every issue you've already heard tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Michelle Togno, and I live at 1845 Alamanda Drive, but however, I grew up at 1840 Northeast 124th Street. And I've been going up and down that canal since I was probably 2 years old. I've been swimming in that canal. We never had a problem. My dad has davits, and you come in and you park parallel and you get up and you put the boat on the davits. We've never had a problem with this perpendicular. Then I understand the change and the new people coming in and buying property, and they want different, a bigger boat or whatever, but unfortunately, it's restricted. I mean, you have only a certain amount of dock space, and that's type of boat that you should have. You should only allow, because now what's happening is, if you look at the pictures that you showed, you have some parked perpendicular, some parallel, and now it's interfering with them getting in and out of their dock to get their boat. So I think we should consider and just keep it parallel. Thank you.
Good evening. Jonathan Heller, 1922 Northeast 118 Road, San Souci. I happen to know Joel Behar. I happen to know, as I watched him purchase his townhome, put a lot of money into it. I was aware when he made application to build his dock, it was approved. I think what we have here, well, it's clear there's not navigational issues, but it looks like to me there's a equal protection and a due process issue. He made an application, he was permitted, he got DERM approval, the city's allowed it, as with the other two applicants, and now it looks like accommodations have to be made, not only to allow him to enjoy his property, but to honor what the city's already confirmed, that he could build it, and he did. And it doesn't seem at all fair to now reverse that, and not only take away that right, but also to scuttle his investment. Thank you.
How you doing, Mr. Mayor? Albert Mendez, Keystone Boulevard, Keystone resident for about 20 years. I think most of you know me. Real quick and real brief, I sort of agree with Scott. I think this needs to be put on hold because I think we're not looking at everything. I do think there is a safety issue being a boater and so forth. I think you're opening up a can of worms for code enforcement, saying what's going to be 25, what's going to be 20 feet. You have a 5-foot dock, now you can only go out 20 feet. Or if you have a 3-foot dock, you're opening up definitely a big can of worms that's going to create more issues further down the road. As far as the issue of this permits and not permitted, I think that's another issue that hasn't been looked at correctly. For example, I understand Mr. Martinez's house is very beautiful, but I think you have to understand and look at his permit record, and you will see where it says approved, but only for a parallel dock. And it's on the record and on the permit. So, you know, that's just one of them. The other one was approved and then not approved. I think we're not looking at everything that did occur and not occur. And you're opening up, again, I agree with Scott, you're opening up a bigger can of worms for an ordinance that we already have that we're sort of rushing into to approve something. Maybe it is the right thing to do, maybe it's not. But it hasn't been, I think, thoroughly looked at just to sort of get away from a mistake that was made years ago by a previous staff that was basically is no longer here. Pretty much I don't think any of them are here, still here. So I deal with them, as all of you know, on a daily basis for the past 20 years. So that's basically all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, public hearing.
Hi, good evening. My name is Manuel Aguirre, 1860 Northeast 124th Street, Keystone Point. I've been living there for about 22, 23 years now. I've navigated up and down that canal before the changes were made. There were bigger boats perpendicular out there. I think, you know, whether the city permitted Mr. Bahar's dock or issue, I think it's a good thing because now we get to see what it looks like, you know, and I think it looks great. It's not a navigational issue. When you start doing parallel parking and stuff like that, and you start coming across other people's property to parallel park against your dock, okay, and you run the risk of running into other boats and stuff like that, then that becomes an issue. When you drive it straight in, obviously it's a lot easier. It's never been a navigational issue for me. I really like the way it was done, so whether the city approved it accidentally or not, I think it's a beautiful job. I don't, you know, the city shouldn't be blamed for any of this, I don't think. I think they did well, and I agree that I will go along with the 25-foot or 20% on the canal, and I think the houses can begin to develop this type of system, and it will beautify, you know, our neighborhood and make everything look better. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Castillo, 2161 Northeast 123rd Street. I've lived there for 13 years. I have no problem with what my neighbors are doing to better their homes. I put a lot of money into my home to make it look good also. And I have a boat. I only bring it in on the weekends. I have no problem with what they've done. I have a 39 that I could get around and do circles in the canal. I see the police boat go in there, and they go in and they turn around with no problem. We haven't had an accident there, so this shouldn't be a problem. If we get 25 feet, we get 25 feet. We are outside of Keystone. We cannot be considered like Keystone because Keystone don't have any townhouses like we do. We have 19 feet. Like the gentleman said, 11 feet raft, that ain't gonna cut it. We buy a home on the water to enjoy the water. If we use it as a marina, so we have a $300,000 or $400,000 marina. We could afford that, but we shouldn't be penalized and have a small boat because that's all we got is 19 feet. I hope you guys decide to give us a 25 feet and appreciate your time.
My name is Dolores Ward. I'm at 2197 Northeast 123rd Street. I've been there since 1996. I've been a lifetime citizen of North Miami. I do not object to changing the ordinance to perpendicular parking. I am quite impressed with the upgrades that are taking place on 123rd Street, and I would like to see more of it. Thank you.
Paul Labiri, 1830 Northeast 118 Road. I've lived there for 20 years, paid less for my house than these guys, probably pay less taxes than these guys. I think they should have everything that I have access to. They've improved the land, they've improved my property value. That canal is unique. It's the only one with condos on one side, houses on the other. It's zero traffic. I taught my kid how to spin the boat around over there. He can do it with his feet. It's a 32-foot boat. Doesn't impede traffic at all, boating traffic at all, and there's no reason why we shouldn't add 5 more feet to their dock.
How long is your boat, Paul?
What's that?
How long is your boat?
It's a 32-foot, 31 contender, 32.3.
Still waiting for my ride.
Hi, good evening. I'm Irene Cinto. I'm at 1955 Northeast 118th Road. I'm in agreement with allowing these people to dock their boats perpendicularly, allow them to build a dock that will, and a lift that will allow them to do that so they can enjoy their home and their backyard, what they have of it.
Josh Shapiro, 1239 Banyan Road. I live on Keystone. I heard some guy from the association. I've never even know what that guy was talking about, but I do support the change. I've been on Mr. Behar's boat. It was just fine, had a great time, and I don't see why we should take away that privilege away. It just seems like a stupid thing to do that. Thank you.
I'm Rosie Behar, 1911 Northeast 118th Road, North Miami. I live in San Souci. I lived in Keystone before, and I'm Joel's mother, Joel Behar. I'm very proud of the job he's done on his house. I'm very proud of everybody who has upgraded those townhomes. I drive up and down 123rd every single day, and I'm every day looking at each one of them, very excited at seeing them getting more beautiful all the time. I think I haven't heard one argument today that I would say they did the wrong thing by building perpendicular. I don't drive a boat. I live on the water. I never saw an accident. And based on what I've heard, I don't see why you shouldn't approve it. I think it's upgrading the neighborhood, it's improving the townhomes, and I think it really should be approved for the benefit of the owners of the homes, for the future owners of those homes, and for us that drive around and see these homes getting more beautiful every day.
My name is Ray Russo. I live at 2140 Northeast 124th Street. The one problem with opening the door to perpendicular parking is the fact that, while today it's a 20-foot boat, tomorrow it's going to be a 28-foot, and the next day it's going to be a 30-foot boat. And we've seen that the city has not been able to enforce the code. I mean, the city has erred in even issuing permits. I mean, there's just seems to be a disconnect with the city and the waterfront issues in our community. So I really don't have the faith in the fact that if we allow the perpendicular parking, it's going to stay limited to a certain footage, like 25, which is proposed. So that's why I'm speaking out against it here tonight. Also, another thing that no one's kind of brought up with the current proposal is that if you allow the townhome people to park perpendicularly, they actually will be able to fit 2 boats into their mooring space in the 19 feet. Because a normal outboard motored boat probably has a beam of about 8 feet. So they could easily fit 2 of those boats in there. That would essentially potentially double the amount of traffic in the canal and would really kind of make things a little out of hand. So, I mean, I think that's the reality of the matter, okay? So while we're all here talking about, you know, specific restrictions and footage, you know, over time, rules get lax, and then you start getting to a situation where it gets out of hand. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Kate McInnes Graham. I live at 12,000 North Bay Shore Drive. All of the docks in my community are perpendicular. I'm in support of it, and thank you for your time.
I'm sorry, may I ask, I'm sorry to interrupt, you're in support of?
Perpendicular.
Okay, sorry, I just wasn't clear.
What's
You said
your
it.
address?
North Bay Shore.
12,000 North Bay Shore Drive. Smile for the camera.
Good evening. Mayor's leaving. Did I scare him away? Annie Montgomery, 2082 Laurel Lane, also known as 124th Street. The Mariners Bay, or the one they were speaking about, that's a condominium, and those were boat lifts, or the boat arrangement was planned when those development was planned. And if the city had time to go through their archives, at the time of this ordinance was county photographs, aerial photos from the county on the presented to the council at that time, showing there were no perpendicular docking along that whole canal, including both sides. Why are we here tonight? If you look at your documents, it's because Annie Montgomery is very unhappy about what's happened. It's not because of the council, it's not because of anything else. We have over 100 signatures that you folks received today in objection to this ordinance, this text amendment. You have that. Is somebody in charge of the meeting, because we have
I am,
feedback
Go
from
ahead,
behind.
go ahead. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. So you all looked at your packages, so my name is in there, so I have something to talk about. I want to enlighten you here. The 3 perpendicular boat lifts that are installed. The first one, the plan showed.
You get, no, excuse me, excuse me, sir. You get extra 10 minutes because of the disruption. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you.
10 seconds.
Thank
10
you.
seconds, I'm sorry,
No,
10
I need
seconds.
more than 10 seconds.
Well, no, it's gonna be 10 seconds. Go ahead.
The first one showed that was the
Mr. City Manager, could you start the time? Thank you.
that the boat lift that was presented on the plan was parallel. Our city inspector, the final inspection, knew who they were, knew who the contractor was, and signed off on it. That was our first mistake with
Thank you,
staff.
Ms. Montgomery. Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, sir, go ahead.
Yeah, Dan Ward, 2197
I'll have
Northeast
somebody else finish
123rd
it.
Street. Excuse me.
Go ahead, sir.
2197 Northeast 123rd Street. You saw that there's no safety issue. There's no navigational hazard. The people are just using their property in the best way they can. Did they say in 2002 they were out there? I think Annie was upset because the old pilings were rotting off, and that's why she came out.
Sir, please no name. Just go ahead and make your statement.
Oh, okay. There was a person who said, yeah, you know, we can't have it looking run down like this. And City of North Miami, City of Progress? Right? What's our name? City of Progress?
No, we changed the city on the
yeah,
move.
Yeah, City of Progress. Come on, guys. Think progressively. Now the people are spending their money and they're beautifying the city. And we're just asking that you'd be open-minded enough to look at the facts, see there's no safety hazard, there's no navigational hazard, you're allowed to go out 25 feet. You have laser measurers now, so the argument that, oh, well, we won't be able to measure it, certainly they come by, and we have code enforcement go up and down the canal at least once a week. So I'm sure that they could look and think of the money you could make when you have a 30-foot boat out there and say, yeah, you're going to be fined. I don't see it happening. Let the people have what they're paying for. No, it shouldn't just be there's a couple haters and they want to ruin it for everybody on the south side. You have perpendicular parking in North Miami. It happens south of 123rd Street. It happens north of 123rd Street. You have a unique situation in the size of the lots. I thank you for listening.
Jeff Cable, 2311 Bayview Lane. I would ask you to vote no on this proposal or table it for the following reasons. The reason why we don't have an issue in the city with safety of boating is because we had an awesome ordinance written in 2002. A lot of time was spent, a lot of money was spent. The council spent 4 different times up here before they finally got it and everybody was correct. That's why there's safety on the canals. I would ask you to say no for the environment. Our waterway environment does not need hundreds of additional piles driven into our canals. Our environment does not need the added pollution of dozens and dozens of more boat engines and bigger boat engines dirtying our canals. I would ask you to vote no because of the code enforcement nightmare you will create. Are you going to buy a boat for code enforcement to take
Can you have a
measurements
seat
of
there?
boat
No,
lengths
can
into the
sit.
canal?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
What is the amount of the fines for the violations? Have you addressed these issues? By voting no on this issue, code enforcement on boating laws remains manageable as they are today. Finally, vote no to maintain the same laws for all of our waterways. By agreeing to this change for one subdivision tonight, be prepared to see all of us again and again and again for every subdivision that wants superior water rights over others. Do you all realize there are 3 other developments on this canal? There are other condos and apartment buildings. What is going to prevent them from coming to you and saying, well, we have 40 units and we only have this much footage on the water. We want our boats to stick out in the canals too. The final note I have to say is at night, how are they going to manage the boats that stick out into the canals at night when you cannot see them when you're navigating? Boats do not keep reflectors on at night, and that's very important. That's why we've had safe canals for so long. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Brian Zapula, and I'm one of the affected homeowners. I'm at 2141 Northeast 123rd Street. And I had something articulate to say, but as usual, mother said it much better. Joel's mother had said everything that I was going to say. I didn't really hear any reasonable objections to the perpendicular docks. I did want to take my couple of minutes to address the one gentleman who had brought up a couple of points that I hadn't heard anyone make before. I thought they were ridiculous, that we were going to double the amount of boats. If he can park 2 8-foot beam boats in 19 feet, he's a much better boater than I am. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I've lived on boats for a long time. The other issue was about the ability to enforce this length issue. That's really a code enforcement issue. If you make an approval about the length of boats, I think that's adequate. It's upon the city to make sure no one has any longer boats. I wouldn't want anything longer than what's being proposed tonight either. So thank you very much. That's all I have to say.
Joel Behar, 2171 Northeast 123rd Street. I want to thank the staff for all the work they did and thank all you guys for all the work you put in as well and for working with me directly and everybody who showed up. Really quickly, I'd just like to say that the building official was incorrect about the plans. The plans do show the orientation of lifter beams. They don't show the orientation of the chocks. By looking at the lifter beams, you can see that the boat is going to be situated perpendicular, so that was a mistake. We can discuss that later if you like. So all the plans did show perpendicular. Really quickly, our taxes and our tax base will go up for the city. It's good for the city. It's good for the residents. Also, I'd urge you to review the petition and review the people that signed the petition and that they were over 18 years of age and who they were. You know, it could be anybody. There's Google Earth for enforcement. I'd also like to say that if you do decide to pass it tonight, you can decide on holding off citations for the rest of Keystone until you figure out the next part. We can pass it for our canal and for Rita Estates, and you can hold off the citations so you don't open up a can of worms later. That's all I got. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'm sorry this has taken so long. My name is Kevin Burns, 2065 Alamanda Drive. I know what you're going through, as you know. And people talk about the 2002 ordinance. We had ordinances we had to deal with in 2005 and 2006 and 2007 with some of this issue. Times change, needs change. And I know that when we have addressed the dock issues, the townhouses were always separated and dealt with separately than how the single-family homes in Keystone were dealt with, how the single-family homes and docks were dealt with in Sans Souci, how they were dealt with on Bayshore Drive, how they were dealt with on 135th Street. So this notion that one size fits all is incorrect. Over the years, the city has individualized the ordinance and specifies, it goes to how big your canal is, how much space you can have. It talks about the townhouse row. I'm not getting into the permitting and who made the mistake. That's not the issue. Tonight is a text amendment. Does it make sense as responsible government to look at your ordinances, to look at your rules and regulations, and update it as the need arises? The need has arisen. You ever, there was a famous thing where some kids wanted a tire hanging from a rope, and that's all they wanted. But somebody designed something else, and they came up with this big, elaborate scheme. It's very simple. How do you park a boat on a very small lot? Mr. Mayor, if you allow me a few more seconds.
I think I might get in trouble with the other.
That's okay.
With the other residents, if I allow you.
But again, it is okay to update and change your rules. It is okay to.
If I allow
do
you
that.
to go for a mayor, I'm going to be obligated to let.
I understand that. And in closing,
yeah.
It makes sense at this point in time to adjust the text amendment. Scott, Mr. Galvin, it will address if
Okay. All right. The point is very well taken. So we'll go to the next person.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, public hearing is now closed. Any further discussion, or did we have a motion, or did we not have one?
No motion, Mayor.
No motion whatsoever, so, well,
Mr. Mayor,
go ahead.
through you to the manager, if this fails tonight, what happens to the 3 individuals who have their docks?
If the item does fail tonight, the 3 individuals that have their docks, we will go and move forward with we revoke the certificate of completion on their docks. They'll be required to, or it will go through, I'm sure they'll file an appeal, but it'll be required to change the orientation of their boat docks.
When you say they file an appeal, appeal through whom?
They would likely go before the county commission or seek mediation through Chapter 70.
Okay.
Which would be a, I have this.
Can
Yes,
the
sir.
applicant seek a variance through the Board of Adjustment?
Yes, of course. Then nothing would prohibit them from seeking a variance through the Board of Adjustment. And if these individuals, if there was some kind, if they relied to their detriment on a city's decision by permitting, then there is some sort of hardship there in their reliance to suggest a variance.
Can you say that in regular people's terms, please?
If the plans were approved, then they relied on those plans. There could be a measure of hardship for them to go to the Board of Adjustment and seek a variance to legitimize their structure.
And what if the Board of Adjustment turns them down?
Then they would have the right to appeal by certiorari to the appellate division.
This is yet another reason I think that we should continue this, because you haven't fully explored every other option that's here. I know it's been said maybe we should grandfather them in, but the manager told me that he wasn't going to support that, because then what do we do when the people next to them start parking perpendicular, et cetera? I stand by my belief that there's got to be a way for you guys to have fixed this before it even came to this.
Well, it was the applicant's right to come before this body and try to get an ordinance, a text amendment to the ordinance, and they have exercised that right. We could not say no to that right.
Not suggesting you have said no, but tonight I'm hearing for the first time that a Board of Adjustment appeal might be a variance might be something they could pursue. I don't know if that's been mentioned to them, but maybe that should have been mentioned to them before this happened tonight. Mr. Manager, you want to add something?
Councilman Galvin, through the mayor, staff sent a letter to the three applicants, revoking their certificate of completion for the docks we're referring to tonight. The docks, didn't meet the code because there's no parallel docking. No perpendicular docking. So myself, under my direction, I did request that we send a letter revoking their certificate of completion. When we did that, that sparked them to come before the Planning Commission to receive this text amendment. So that's how we did get here. The boat docks were illegal by the code. We sent the letter to revoke the certificate of completion. So we started the process, and that's what got us to the point where we're at now. They went before the Planning Commission, and then it comes after it leaves the Planning Commission, it comes to this body.
Mr. Mayor, can
Go
I
ahead.
ask a question? Mr. Manager, so we approved them, our previous administration, and then your administration figure out it's wrong, so you sent them a letter, and now the fixing of this by staff is to increase this to 25 feet. Am I getting it correctly in them terms?
Yes,
Okay.
I would say yes. Let me say, it wasn't myself that just found the problem. This was a problem before I took over. I did take action in an attempt to rectify the problem. Either we were going to move forward with this, they were going to do a text amendment, or I wanted the certificate of
Okay, but can they, and I'm just saying this, I'm not taking any side yet. Can they grandfather it in, or how do you come up to us? Because Councilman Galvin is saying for staff to take it back. What would that look like?
I would just say, Councilman Galvin, Vice Mayor DeSome, through the mayor, grandfathering the three properties in, I think just puts us in, we had the pictures up, other people, because these three properties are now parked perpendicular. Everybody else is beginning to park perpendicular. As we go, I went through the waterways over the last 6 days last week. Throughout all our waterways, everyone's parking perpendicular now.
Yes.
So if you grandfather one in, then the next person comes, I want it. Why did you grandfather them in? I want it. Now, I seriously, I have a code enforcement issue already, and it's gonna be a more serious code enforcement issue once you grandfather one group in, because some people, you know, we have a room full of people here tonight, but everybody's not here and everybody's not paying attention, and they'll see some people are perpendicular parking, and people will continue to do so, sir, in my opinion, sir. Okay?
If I can add something, the notion of grandfathering, I think it's being somewhat misapplied. The ordinance was adopted in May 28th, 2002. All of these property owners, the 3 property owners, bought subsequent to the ordinance passage. So there is no notion of grandfathering. They bought the properties after, years after the ordinance was adopted. So the notion of grandfathering would not really apply here.
It's not applicable here.
And I get that, but at the same time, we approved the permits. So it's not fair to throw this on these guys and say, hey, tear down your docks. And but you follow. I hear where you're coming from about the fairness of the grandfather, but it's also unfair that we wrongly approved not 1, not 2, but 3 permits.
Councilman Galvin, through the mayor, I would say we wrongly approved one of the docks. The other 2 docks, as shown by the building official, did have orientation of parallel parking. So I will say the permits do not specify the actual orientation of the boat. So I would say the one permit, we did have one permit that did specify the orientation of the boat. Staff wrongly approved that one. The other 2, I would say staff did not wrongly approve. The permits clearly state.
But in the ones that were drawn parallel did not specify that they were going to park parallel, did they?
I'll let the building official answer that for me, sir.
On the first 2, there was no declaration as to the orientation of the boats. On the third one, they did show a boat, and the orientation was perpendicular.
Perpendicular, okay.
They did show.
And
so,
are the staff members?
Excuse me. Obviously, this is an issue where we are obviously wrong, right? We pretty much, dropped the ball here.
In one of the cases, sir, yes.
Yes, in one of the cases. And if we corrected in one of the cases, it's going to look like we're going to have to take a global or comprehensive corrective action plan to solve this once and for all. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But in doing so, I don't think it's something that we can actually resolve tonight. It's not going to be resolved tonight. It's something where we as policymakers, we have to give directions to staff to go back to the drawing board and come up with a comprehensive corrective plan so that we can either refute the requests that are presented before us tonight, or I don't want to use the word grandfathering like the attorney said, because it is not the proper term to use at this time. And like you cannot, I feel the residents. They apply for something, and we tell them yes, go ahead, you can do it, and they went ahead. They spent $30,000, whatever it may be, thinking that they can use it in the way that we said that we're going to allow them to use it, and now we're coming back to tell them that they cannot.
For one of the properties.
But if you do it for one, you got to do it for all. That's the bottom line. So if you do it for one, you got to do it for all. So you cannot do a piecemeal. There is no such thing as a piecemeal legislation where you say, well, for this block I'm going to allow it, that block I'm not going to allow it. That's just not the way they do it in the U.S. of A. So we just have to go back to the drawing board, either behind closed doors, whatever it is, just go and redact a new law, or new resolution or ordinance, I should say, so that we could come and actually, as a city, as a government, our job is to act on behalf of our residents and to make sure that everybody is happy, everybody lives the life that they're supposed to live as it says in the Bill of Rights. Right? You have your own property, you're supposed to enjoy your property, it is on the water, And if if it's on the water, usually people who live on the water, that's because they are water people. They want to have their boats and they want to be able to enjoy them. But we, as staff, if we cannot a control of our codes and people come to us and we give them permits, that are wrongly given, we should take the responsibility of correcting our own mistakes. Can we do it tonight here? I do not think so. So, as such, I'm asking council members to come with a plausible decision tonight and to see how we can, because we're not going to get to a final consensus tonight.
But, Mr. Mayor, can I just ask a quick question?
I wanted to answer
the
Mr. Galvin's
resolution-
question.
No, I'm not doing that.
Mr. Rowland, please, you cannot speak. Public hearing is now closed. If anything you want to convey to us, you can always do it as an attorney. You represent your client. You can always meet with us individually subsequent to this meeting.
I
and
was
you
just trying to
can do
address
that.
Mr. Galvin's question.
Yeah,
as
but
a-
if public
as a
hearing
point
is
of privilege
closed,
he wants it
if I do
answered,
it
I
for you,
will.
then I have to do it for everybody else.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. The resolution before us, right, is to allow all residents on the canal to be able to park perpendicular.
For this one particular subdivision, not for the entire
No, I'm
city.
talking about the whole 97 units.
Yes, sir.
On 123rd.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's okay.
Can I ask staff a question? Mr. Jour, this particular ordinance, what would it satisfy? I know it will increase the footage, I guess, to 25 feet. Because if we throw it back at staff, I think this is what they're trying to say. This is it. Am I correct? Or this is not it?
What I would say is, if we did go back to the table as suggested, there's only one other option would be to adopt this citywide, or to just say no,
but
we're
you
not
cannot
moving
we-
forward.
You saying you have to bring back something to us to adopt citywide?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
But on administrative level, what would you do?
On
What
adminis-
can you do?
On administrative level, we can't do anything administratively.
That's what I thought. Okay, Mr. Jour.
Well, well, go ahead.
Well, quick question. What would this, this would satisfy, because obviously tonight, some people gonna leave, no matter how happy and some not. So either way, a group gonna be unhappy with us. I mean, we are here, that's our job. They voted for us to make decisions. Sometimes they're easy and sometimes they're not. And this has happened to be a hard one. So my question to you, what would this satisfy?
So
Because
basically,
of-
the text amendment would allow where currently the lots that are 19 feet
to go to
wide
25.
are prohibited or unable to be able to have the parallel mooring. It would allow them to be able to do it legally. To do a perpendicular mooring at the side with the water vessels is considered illegal under today's standards. You pretty much would make it lawful.
Yeah, well, so pretty much we would not allow it just for those three. We would allow it for anybody who would come.
Correct. It's specifically for the 97 townhomes that
Yeah.
have 19 feet wide lots.
Now, sorry, go ahead. No.
One
go
last
ahead.
question,
Go ahead,
Mr.
Nick.
Mayor. I'm not going to take too long. When we were on the water with the police department, we had to obviously drive from the dock past some properties in Keystone, going over the bridge into that section. There were some boats that was parked various ways. Majority of them was parallel, but there was some that was perpendicular. So, are we citing those? So I'm saying, where are we right now?
Right now, we are not citing those individuals. And in my opening, when I did speak, that's some of the problem I was speaking about. Throughout our canals, people are parking perpendicular. And this is something. Let me, if I may, Mayor, going back, if it is the will of the body, we can go back, come up with a more comprehensive review. I do agree that where we're at is unfair to the body, to the council body. We can go back and do a more comprehensive review and come back with something citywide if that's what the body so chooses. I'm not saying I'm against that. If you want to do that, we can do that. if that is the will of the body.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. No.
We're not done.
Well, before you have a last question. Yeah, yeah.
If we do that, Mr. Manager, a couple months, we're still gonna be in the same situation. So what would be the point? I'm just saying, I'm not saying I'm against it.
I 100% agree with you. If we do go back down that road, this still, but if we do approve this one section and this was the text amendment submitted by the applicant that identified this one section, this was not staff. In hindsight, maybe maybe staff should have said, let's do the whole city if we're gonna bring it now, because the only thing that does happen, we approve this one section and people keep doing it. Now we're back here again when other people request it.
Now, the one point that I would like to make tonight is for people to, well, also for us to take into account the fact that this is an ordinance. So this is the first reading.
No, that's it. Resolution.
This is the first reading, no?
It's an ordinance.
Yeah, it's an ordinance. Type Q.
Okay.
So since it is the first reading, I think we would, well, I'm just speaking for myself, we probably would benefit in voting it tonight, because that will give us the chance to go back, because it's not going to be effective until after the second reading anyway. So when we come back for the second reading, any other thing can be considered, while we work with staff.
Well, if I may, Mr. Mayor, if there are substantial modifications made to the ordinance subsequent to first reading, we would have to go back to first reading.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, at least we know we would start somewhere.
So for instance, then, Mr. Mayor, through you to the attorney, if we were to address jet skis in 2 weeks, if this passes tonight, we bring jet skis back, is that a substantive change that would require a new first reading? Or would jet skis edition be just?
Well, this ordinance is applicable to boats, not necessarily jet skis. So, yeah, that could interject a new variable into the ordinance, possibly would require another reading.
Did I understand correctly then that our codes address watercraft but don't differentiate between that 17-foot boat and a 5-foot jet ski?
The code differentiates between a boat and watercrafts. One is broader, one encompasses the other. But a boat, and this one is mooring of boats.
It is boats. Yeah.
It's not, it excludes the jet ski scenario that you have just presented.
So the jet skis that are parked perpendicular, that are about to get sighted in the morning.
I don't think that this is applicable to the jet skis. It's boats.
I understood in individual conversations with the manager, Mr. Manager, maybe I need to get clarification. Did you not tell me that you were going to have to go out and start citing perpendicularly parked jet skis?
From my understanding of the code, the perpendicular jet skis are not allowed either, from my understanding, sir.
Okay, so can we get some clarification on that right now? Are they allowed or not allowed? Because
Which code? You're talking about the code from 2002?
Right, the existing rules.
Does it say jet skis?
We have a lot of problems in this city to deal with. We better not be spending time tomorrow running around writing citations on jet skis.
May I speak?
Oh, and by the way, Tracy.
Okay, please. Let's keep it quiet.
And
please.
Tracy, just so you know, Airbnb houses are illegal citywide. Please report that one that you kept bringing.
Councilwoman?
Yeah.
Tell me, I don't know.
Mr. Mayor, I did not finish.
Sorry.
Oh, you were talking?
And
yeah, after considering, because he hasn't finished yet.
and Mr. City Manager,
You was asking some questions.
this ordinance, is it gonna address the floated dock? Is it
The floating dock,
will they have to be 25 feet also?
yes, everything in the water would be no more than 25 feet. Yes, sir.
Okay, including everything.
Yes.
And there's something that I think
That's for
tonight.
the 5-foot dock or 10 foot.
Regardless, it's 25 feet from the seawall.
Okay. I think there's something that tonight we need to take in consideration. The only reason we are collecting high taxes from those people living on 123rd Street is because of the water. That means if we are collecting the money, they should be able to use the water if that doesn't cause any threat to the other residents living in the area. And another thing, Mr. City Manager, the bridge is only 35 feet, right?
Right.
I'm talking about the bridge.
Yeah.
The bridge that you pass under?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
It's 35. What is the height? It's
I'm not
11. That
positive
means
of-
whether or not we pass this, they won't be able to bring a big boat in the back.
No.
And I think there is no way out. It's just a dead end, right? It's just people coming and living in the area. But the only concern that I have, what about if they turn the area to a commercial marina? I'm just asking.
One of the, and I think one concerns is that you're not allowed to rent your space to someone else. You're
Oh, right
supposed to be for your own home, and maybe we put maybe some stronger, where we can enforce it that the boats have to be registered under the current homeowner's name, and that maybe something stronger that we could add into the language, that if you do have a boat, it has to be, under the name of the current owner of the property. Maybe that's something we can add in that would address
Prevent
that
from
issue.
commercial
Yes, sir.
use of the marina.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's conclude my question, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. Councilwoman?
Thank you.
See, good things come to those who wait.
Okay.
Now you have all the time.
I'm really upset with staff. I have been dealing with this over a year with the previous manager when this came up. I am really, really furious, and I want to say this on record. I am absolutely furious with Southern Marine, a contractor who has been putting docks and boat lifts in our city for more than a decade. And they came in here knowingly putting in illegal boat lifts. They knew the law, and they put it in anyway. And they snuck it through, and they knew if they made a mistake, they got it done. And they should not be allowed to do it, and they should be sanctioned. And if anything happens, they should be made to pay for this. They didn't put one in, they put a second dock in. Now, I have understood, maybe staff can give me an answer, because I've been asking. The second dock, I believe, was put in before a permit was issued. Is that correct, staff? Was a dock put in, the second? I still can't get answers.
That one I don't remember seeing.
It says
anything.
after the fact permitting. What does that mean?
After the fact would mean that it was put in after, after the fact means it would be, it was
It
put
says
in.
after the fact all over the place. So does that mean that a dock by this company, Southern Marine, put a dock in our city, installed the dock without a permit? They know, forget not knowing the city's code, and I know they know the city's code. Did somebody actually put a dock in our city without a permit and then get the after the fact permit, unfortunately being after the fact a mistake?
I would have to pull the paperwork on that.
We've been
from
pulling the paperwork, and
I
we've been
can tell
looking
you-
at this paperwork. Yes,
You
Mr.
wanna
Wall.
know?
Yeah, I do.
It was there for years and years before.
Not the lift.
No, the dock. You were saying the dock.
No, but okay, but we're talking lifts here. I don't want to play games with words. Lift. Did they install a
No.
lift?
We cannot do the back and forth again,
Okay.
Mr. Wallen, please.
So I'm not getting answers.